Good morning. This is Kurt Ness with Ness Brothers. I'm here talking again about our 55 plus relocation services. I went back and watched the first video I did, and I have a philosophy that it's a work in progress, and that was definitely a work in progress. In fact, I even thought about poking fun of myself, and what I mean by that, I'm going to do a little contest. For the people that go out and watch that first video and count how many times I said, and the person that gets the closest to that number, I am willing to give a $25 gift certificate to Applebee's. Just one, but it's a better way for me to make sure that I am doing the correct thing. So, getting along the topic that I wanted to talk about was our 55 plus relocation service and my little plug and commercial. You can find out more information about it by going to this website. Again, my expensive prop. But I'm going to tell you why we started or thought about this. I'm going to give you a true story that happened to me. So probably about a year and a half ago, I was in Myers one evening. It was about, say, 10:30 at night, and I was just picking up something. And I overheard a conversation that the cashier was having next to my aisle to an elderly couple. Couple was actually in their 80s. He was tall and slender, and she likewise. And what was comical, she had the scarf, tied under and tied under her head, and look like your typical 80-year-old people. And I'm saying that in a positive way. So they ended up leaving the cashier before I did. But in the conversation, I heard the cashier was giving them directions on how to get to Comfort Suites down at Village of Coventry. And I live in that right down close to that. And my intention was to track them down in the parking lot and just kind of give them more specific directions or even allow them to follow me. So when I got out into the parking lot, I saw where they were, and I walked over to where they were, and they were trying to get in their car, and he's using his clicker, and he's not having any success opening the car. And just as I get there, a young gal comes up behind him and wants to know why they are trying to get into her car. And the wife spoke up and said, well, this is a rental. We're not familiar with it, and we're trying to find the car that we have. And I said something at that time because I'd come up upon him, and I said, well, your clicker should have a horn. Let's hit the horn. And they hit the horn, and it was like 2 rows over. And so they walked over there, and I walked over with them, and I made the comment that I would be happy to give them, or they could follow me to the hotel, because I didn't live that far away, and make sure that they got to the right location. And so they were happy to do that. The one thing I didn't realize was that when I took off and going down 65, the speed that they went was 45 miles an hour. So I had to make sure that I didn't want to go the speed limit, 65, because then they would lose track of me. So we're going down 69, 45 miles an hour, and we get off the exit, and I drive over to Comfort Suite. And as I get out, I wanted to make sure that they could get in to Comfort Suite, because at that time it was about 11 o'clock. And I walked in there and just asked the clerk if they had any openings, and they said yes. And so I went back out and told them that they actually have 3 rooms available. At that time, the wife had told me, as the husband was going in to get a room, that what had happened was, number one, they'd locked themselves out of the house. They were at Myers buying toiletry, that their car was overnight at Kelly's getting worked on, and that she really appreciated my help. And at that time, I formally introduced myself and just said, gave him a card, my business card, said, I have locksmiths that if you can't get into the house, just let me know, and I'd be happy to help coordinate things. And she was very nice, and she didn't tell me where she lived, and I didn't need to know where she lived. So fast forward, the next day, I am sitting in our den, and I'm talking to my wife, and my phone rings, and I don't answer it, but the people leave a message. And after talking with my wife, I listen to the message, and here it's this lady, I'm going to say her first name, I don't even remember anymore, I think was Elizabeth. And Elizabeth is saying, we're at Kelly's, we couldn't get into our house, could you get back with me and give me the name of that locksmith? Well, the problem with Kelly's, great organization, but when I called into their switchboard, Kelly's has a multiple locations, and I had no idea of knowing which location she was calling from, which service department. Well, lo and behold, while I'm on the phone with Kelly, she tries to call me again, and I took her phone call, and I found out that her house was in the subdivision directly behind our office. So she gave me the location, and I drove over there to the house, and the husband and they had pulled up. His car door was open, and she had told me that he was walking around the house trying to get in. And so I walked completely around the house, and I don't find him. And every door is locked. And she said that he hadn't been to the front door, so I'm kind of going around the property yelling for this gentleman, and lo and behold, he had gone to the neighbors next door to get assistance, and they ended up, the neighbor came over, also a retired gentleman with a cordless drill, and they proceeded to take off the storm door so that they could get into the main lock. And they had found a key. Unbeknownst to me, they had found a key, but because all the storm doors were locked, they didn't have keys for the storm door. So while they're doing that, I'm talking to the wife, and I find out, number one, that they have 4 children, but all 4 children live everywhere from California to Georgia to Tennessee, and I don't remember where the 4th one lived. And that they have, what was comical was they'd lived in this house 37 years. And so I know that I'm forgetful. But this was a case, and I felt sorry for them that here, Comfort Suites was 2 miles away, and they did not remember how to get there. So this brought home to me the situation that we live in a time that children live all over the place. I think I'm a prime example. I've got a son in LA and a daughter in New Jersey. You can't get much farther if you're staying in the States, unless you're in Hawaii, of course. But there was a need that as parents get older and they have to make the transition, that there are no children close by. And so that's what really prompted us to look at our 55 plus program of being able to help people through these different transitions. And that's what sprung up with the 55 plus, and kind of the little slogan of our family helping yours, make this easier. So if you have any questions, I'm going to try something different. Send me a question, and in my next live Facebook, not a blog, but a Facebook, I will see if I can answer it. Thank you, and have a great week.